Hello, everyone. Welcome to one more podcast of the Athletic School. Today, our guest speaker is Vince Laverick. Did I say it right?
Yes.
Oh, good. He's the faculty athletics representative at Lord's University. Um, he was he was a coach. He was a coach. He played soccer in college. Is that right?
Correct.
Cool. So, and was also director of education for United Soccer Coach in Michigan. Was assistant coach. So let's talk a little bit about your experience. So what is your role here at Lords? What a athletics representative does in a daily basis?
On a daily basis, it's nothing that exciting. It's probably not something people get overly excited about. It involves me working on eligibility and making sure athletes here are eligible, helping them through the process, helping them understand the process. And working with coaches too, so that they understand the process to get their student athletes eligible. The part I probably like the most is helping students understand what they need to do to be eligible. That's probably the part I like the most. The part I get the most value out of is when I see students who are struggling and they get ideas of how they can fix it and move out of that. That probably gives me the most reward. The rest of it is just pushing a lot of papers. I mean, really just taking information in, putting it on a paper and sending it out so that the student athletes can compete. That's a big part of my job here. But like I said, the part I like the most is when I'm helping students figure out how they can be able to compete.
Right. So let's say a student comes to you and they are not eligible to play. How would it work? How would that work for you? Like, how would you help them?
Probably the first place we start is their transcripts. So we look at the transcripts and see what they've taken, what they haven't, and how they can move to being eligible. And then a big part of the conversation is what's keeping them from being eligible. So a lot of times it's not passing enough classes, not getting good enough grades, or certain programs have requirements to get into them and they aren't meeting those. So then it's just trying to help them understand, for lack of a better word, how to play school, right? So how to manage what they should be doing, how to go to office hours, how to ask instructors for help. I know it sounds silly, but I do a lot of role playing. Like, so what are you going to say to this instructor when you go meet with him? And because those are skills that no one's taught, right? But they're really important when you move into the real world, right? In the business world, you're going to have times you're not successful. And how do you deal with your employers and your boss? To move into that work, into the being successful part, is something I think we can work on helping people be successful at this level with.
And just one thing about the eligibility, I feel that sometimes the students, they don't know what they need to do to be eligible, and sometimes even the coaches, they don't know. Like, how do you work with that? Like, you kind of like have meetings with the coach so they understand everything and pass to the athletes?
We try to. The biggest issue with universities is college coaches don't last forever, right? They kind of come and go and they jump between NAI or NCAA, or they go back and do club and come back. So they often don't know, right? You're right. Or they get confused between the rules between places. I think the most important thing, how about this? The most successful coaches I work with are the ones that are constantly asking and coming in and talking, and we sit down and look at situations, because I could tell you all the time that kids need these many credits to be eligible and these types of things, but until you deal with it, it makes no sense, right? You both are athletes, right? If I can tell you how to kick a soccer ball 25 times, but until you actually go and do it, you're not going to get good at it, right? So it's best when we have the situations that we're dealing with in front of us, and we have so we look at the kid together and we figure out how to help them, because that makes more sense than me just saying, here's what you need to do. It's not practical, because it's not the right time yet. The right time is when you're dealing with it.
And I don't know if other people understand how important it is, because imagine an athlete coming to a school to play their sports and then he's not eligible, and then it's kind of, his world is like going down, and then like what you do is like very helpful. Because
well, maybe, but the biggest thing is, then I've been there too. Like if I was when I was an athlete, like you said years ago, if I would have shown up and found out I couldn't play, why am I here? Right? Because for most athletes, the thing that drew them to the school was the athletics. Now, the academics keep them here. I really believe that. So people come because they have a connection with a coach or they want to play a sport, but once they get here, those things aren't always great, right? I mean, you're going to have, you both are athletes, you're going to have times of struggle. You're going to have times you don't like your coach. You're going to have times you're not happy with your teammates. But it's the academic piece that keeps you like, okay, this makes sense. No matter what's going on here, I'm going to graduate with a good degree, and it's worth dealing with this so I can get to the end. So I think that's a real important part, is the school needs to be the right fit, and they usually fall into that as time goes on.
So back then, when you were in college, when you
It
were
was a long time ago.
playing soccer, what was your goal when you were in college? What you wanted to be? What was your mindset look like? Um, you pursue a path to education, and so like, is it something that you always had since you were in college, or something that you kind of created and learned about it?
So that's a few questions, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. I mean, I just want you
Yeah,
to
you
go
threw a lot
little
at me.
bit.
So when I went to college, I chose it very, very honestly for athletics. I
Mhm.
mean, I knew I had parents who went to college. I was very fortunate, but
Mhm.
they didn't understand the college process, right? They weren't
Right.
athletes. They didn't understand what that was about. And then when I wanted to be an athlete,
Mhm.
and I had an opportunity to play, and I just said, well, I can go to school anywhere. I might as well go to a place I can get the best opportunity to play. So I took that, and I honestly had no idea if there. I knew I wanted to be a teacher. I always did. I always wanted to be a teacher. I enjoyed that part of. It's kind of what I grew up. It's always what I had in my head that I'd be
Mhm.
a teacher. So when I really got there, just everyone had education. So I just went to the school I thought would push me the most athletically.
Mhm.
My mindset, gosh, I can't remember what my mindset was. It's so interesting, and it's. I've talked with a few people about this. Is once you kind of move on, if you move on in a professional field, this almost became like a dream. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
you kind of look back and go, "Gosh, did that really happen?" And you forget about how fortunate you were and so many opportunities he had
Yeah.
given to you, and just the amount of people who made you successful.
Yeah.
I really forget that. I remember vividly an instructor helping me so much because I was missing so much class time
Mhm.
because I was always gone for games and helping me do all the work. And God, he didn't have to do that, right? And I look
Mhm.
back and he really allowed me success as I moved on to that instructor. But my
Yeah.
mindset really was I wanted to play, right? I
Yeah.
love playing. I love being. I know it sounds silly, but I love being around. I love the team. Like I
Mhm.
love being around a group of people who were as equally as competitive as me, who worked really hard,
Mhm.
and I liked that feeling of. I think I'm kind of sadistic. I really like the feeling of being uncomfortable and in pain. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
when you train
The
all the
grind.
time and you're playing, like
Yeah.
it was just enjoyable to me, right? Like,
Yeah.
can I get through this one more? It was like every day was a battle to see how tough I was and if I
Yeah.
could keep going. I don't know if that,
Yeah.
but I enjoyed that. I enjoyed practice. I know how messed up that sounds. I like the feeling of going out there and just battling every day because you didn't have that when you were younger. At least I did. Like my
Mhm.
club I grew up in my high school, you tend to be kids that play in university tend to be better. So I didn't have the people pushing me. So I was better than everyone. But when I got there, all of a sudden I
Mhm.
wasn't the best anymore.
Mhm.
And quite honestly, I think my goal, what I got to be, I finally hit a point where I didn't know if I was good enough anymore.
Mhm.
And it was an interesting personal battle to go through that and
Mhm.
realize that my goal is just to be. I'll say this now. I think I was average on my best days,
Mhm.
and if I didn't look on the field and go, God, that guy's bad. That was my goal, right? Like I didn't want to be the one embarrassing anyone
Right.
or bringing the team down. So it was. I enjoyed those parts. I think that. So my mindset really was, I knew my role. I wasn't going to be a star player anymore. I had a
Mhm.
very simple role. The game of soccer was so much different back then than it is now.
Right.
It was a lot more physical, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. So I
Yeah.
knew with my height, I was the shortest kid on my team by about 6-7 inches. I wasn't fast. I mean, you start limiting yourself very quickly. So I need to find a way that I can be. So there were the defensive end and the physicalness were things that I brought
Mhm.
that were different that other people couldn't. So I found my niche. I made sure I did my niche, and that's how I got into the team to play every once in a
Mhm.
while. Is when I knew those things were needed, and I can come and deliver those things. But you have to be consistent delivering it.
Yeah.
So my mindset was really just battling every day. It's just, every day was a battle, and I really liked it.
Uh-huh. And you feel like that until like nowadays? Do you feel like you're still battling, even here? I know your job here is completely different as a soccer player, but like, do you feel like you are still battling every day, or is something more like cool down and stuff?
No, I think the skills I learned by going through that
Mm-hmm.
directly translated in my life. I think really successful athletes are a bit paranoid.
Mm-hmm.
They're always worried that someone's going to take their spot, right?
Yeah.
Or someone's going to get better than them. Or if you have your spot, are they going to recruit someone to take your spot next year,
Mhm.
right? So there's that paranoia of, I need to be working my best, or someone's going to replace me. You're laughing. You can.
Yeah, I mean, that you're talking about me right now.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
I mean, it's just pure paranoia,
Yeah,
isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
every training session, gosh, I better. He's, you know, you're always going to be better than the people if you want to play.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that paranoia allows really successful athletes to be successful, right? Because they don't view themselves as the best. They're always viewing themselves as someone's going to be better than me, or this team's going to be better than the next one, and you're always working to be this like mythical thing to be better than.
Yeah.
And that helps you, at least it has for my world. Like, I'm always trying to do more. Like, what can I do extra to make my employer want to keep me, right? To be the best employee I can be, to do the job the best I can, because you realize in athletics you're replaceable very quickly. And I think that translates really well to the real world, because we're all replaceable. And if we don't provide value to the place where we're employed, we're going to be replaced.
Yeah.
And quickly, right?
Yeah,
and I
for sure.
think that's a good way. And I think when you're young, you have ways to provide value. When you're more veteran in businesses, maybe you're not as spry and as much energy, but there are still ways you can provide value to be a part of that team. So yes, I think I definitely use this stuff. And I think the ability to realize I can do more than I think I can has helped me a lot, especially as I've had children and my wife and a relationship and all that stuff. It's you have so many things tearing you in different ways, and you can go farther. You can do more. Even when you feel exhausted, you can still get up and go because you've done it before.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's something that we talk about, like, because today we have the sport, so it's kind of like you said, the battle. You go there, you give everything you can, and you get home, you are tired, but like your mind's kind of in peace. And then like, how translates that when we're not gonna play anymore to something else? That's our question, because it's kind of, I don't know, it's not that physical thing that you're tired, that you did everything. It's more like doing everything for your company if you are not playing anymore, and how to translate that in another thing, in business, for example.
Yeah.
So I think you bring up a struggle I had when I finished playing. So after my senior year, I was done. I went and got a job. I really struggled that year because for my whole life, I was active all the time. And I started realizing that's how I dealt with my stress, my emotions, and all the things that I have in life was through the physical things. I was able to get away and the working out piece became very important. And I found that I now work out still every day religiously, because that time, that's when I process things. That's when I keep my anxieties go away, all that stuff. So I found the most valuable thing I learned is that the physical fitness helped me to be mentally fit as well. So when I got pretty quickly unfit, when I wasn't doing anything, right? I just wasn't happy, and so I found that I needed to work out. So I still to this day get up early every morning and go exercise before I do anything. And then I could take on my day, because I remember all those years I was getting up early and training, and it translated well for me. And I found that I'm more productive through the day if
you do it.
And it's amazing, because you don't think about it as an athlete. You are working out almost every day, and that just stops, right? And if that's the way you deal with life, that's how I did. It was very helpful to continue to do that. So that's one thing that's, I think, kept me going.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, something that we really want to talk about, it's like education in sports. And you got your master's in education.
So I have a bachelor's in English.
Okay.
So in English literature, and then I became a teacher with that. I got my master's in educational leadership, so being like a school principal, and I got my doctorate in teaching and learning.
Okay, that's really good. And you mentioned that you like teaching.
Yeah.
What do you like about it? Exactly?
Oh, it's finding ways to reach people and help them become successful. That's it. It's no different than coaching, right? It's just one's in a classroom, one's in a field, on a court, wherever it is. But it's how do you move someone from X to Y? And sometimes with them kicking and screaming, not wanting to get there, right? And finding different ways for different people. That's what I love about it. And I think the most valuable thing I've always felt out of teaching and coaching is when someone honestly comes up to you after and just says thank you. Like, honest thank you. I don't care about the money. I don't care about the winning. That all goes away, and the trophies fall apart. No one cares anymore. But knowing that someone appreciated your effort, that's what it's all about. That's why I do it.
No, I agree.
And do you think, like, of course you gotta teach the subject that you are teaching, but also how can you convey like your experience and your life lessons, like to kind of influence people to be successful?
So I struggle with that. I don't really talk about, like, I bet most people don't even know I was an athlete. I don't really talk about it in my office. You can't really tell. My own children really don't know. I don't talk about it at home. I know it sounds terrible, but I found that people don't care. You know what I mean? Like, kids don't care that I played. But they care, they want to know that I care about them, right? And then once they know that I care about them and I don't want them to fail and I want them to be successful, then they're more willing to listen. But usually it's the parents and the outside people who are excited by your resume. Like, no one else really cares. The kids don't, right? They just want to know, you know, are you going to help me get better? That's it. And they classroom and in the field, they can see through someone that doesn't. And they know, are you really there for them? And they know right away. And I think that's the most important thing, is being there for the people and caring about them and helping them take care of their needs. That allows them to want to prove. Because if they have other things in their life, they're dealing with a girlfriend problem, if they're dealing with school problems, they can't focus on their job in front of them because they're so worried about that. They can't be here. So that's...
I think one of the guest speakers, the first one, it was in Portuguese, he mentioned Theodore Roosevelt, like, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
That's exactly it. That's the whole. That's the simplest way to put it. You do have to. Yes. And then the other piece with teaching and coaching is it needs to be appropriate, and that's the hardest thing for people to understand is you're both not from the States, right?
No.
I don't know how it is other places, but in the States we've had this professionalization of youth sports. I don't know if you've noticed it, like young kids getting the nicest uniforms. You need the nicest. A t-shirt and shorts would be fine, right? Taking them to big tournaments and doing all these things, and that's for the parent. The kids don't care. Like, I have two boys who play sports, and they could care less if they had a t-shirt on or it's wonderful. They just want to go play, right? Can I have a ball? Do I have a space? And can I go play? And we've done so many things and moved kids away, and we're treating them like adults when they're still kids, right? And there's times you can teach kids everything. It has to be developmentally appropriate. And I think that's really important, because right now you're two at a stage of in athleticism where you can compete to win, right? But an 8-year-old doesn't understand it. You ever have an 8-year-old that plays a sport, at the end of it, they're just like, where's my treat? Do my parents still want to say hello to me? And I want to go home and play with my friends. They don't care. Like, for you, if you lose, you might be devastated for a couple of days. They don't care, right? They just want to go play, and it's the being with their friends. And it slowly changes over time. And if we treat 8-year-olds like we treat 22-year-olds, they're going to quit. And
it's not fair with them, right?
It's not fun, right? And it's the same thing with teaching. It's no different. Is how are you making these experiences for people? Because when you do get to, now it's you're working to win, right? You want to win in your business and your profession and be successful. So we've moved you from, we just want you to like to go to school and have fun, right? To now we're getting down to brass taxes. You need to get good at what you're doing, because that's how you're going to make your money, right? And your livelihood, and take care of yourself and your family the rest of your life. So it does. I don't know if I'm going the way you want.
No, you are. I mean, that's all valuable to us.
That's very valuable. And I think, like, I want to be a coach in the future, or maybe it's one of my possibilities, and kind of having this, if I'm teaching 10 years old or 15, I think the approach is totally different, especially because of what you said, because how can I be like so rough with a 10 years old if they are there to have fun, and if I be too rough with them, they might give up.
Correct. Which is not what we want, right? So really our stages, the beginning is just having fun. The next one is learning how to practice, because that's a big step, right? Like, how do you actually go to practice? Then it's practicing to improve, like using training to get better. And it's different from boys and girls because we develop differently. And then it's all of a sudden we get to a point where we start competing to win, right? I have no interest in, I could care less. I have friends who are like, oh, my 10-year-old won this tournament. Who cares, right? Because that doesn't mean in 10 years you're going to be good, right? It just means you won a tournament today. But how many of your friends, or even you, might have fallen this, that they were maybe not in the top teams or not selected, but then 10 years later they were, when their body matured, right? When their mindset changes, when they start realizing how to approach practice and how to train and how to take care of their body. The kids who are great at 12 are not the ones who are great at 21. And you see it in professional sports. I mean, how many professional soccer players were cut from their apprenticeships and released and end up being one of the top pros many years later.
And especially with all this media, I think they see like someone with 15, 16, and they say, this guy's gonna be world-class player. And with 16, you're carrying this pressure already.
Can't handle it. You're not ready.
And sometimes they don't even become anyone. Like they stop.
And sometimes they become a okay player, but they feel a failure because they
were expecting way more.
You're expecting too much of a 16-year-old, right? I do struggle with that. I do. And the other thing I struggle with in the States is that we have a pay-to-play model that it's just if you're good, you pay more, right? Which then makes people of poverty really hard for them to find success in the States in athletics.
Yeah.
Where in other countries you don't have that, right? You have
Right.
the apprenticeship programs a lot of it's free, and I think that makes a big difference. If you're good, you're not going to end up paying double the price because I know some parents can't afford that, and that's not fair, and it leaves kids out.
Yeah, and I want to talk a little bit about the difference between the States and some other countries. But like, my first question is, how much you think sports and education are related? Like, is it something that they should always go together, or is it something that like, oh no, you should just study right now, or you should just practice right now, because that's something that we don't have in Brazil.
Yeah, that's I think the main reason for our question. Because
Yeah, because like we don't have college sports in Brazil, and the only not the only reason, but one of the reasons that we came here is because we couldn't do both there. I tried, and I got in a point that I need to choose if I want to go to practice or if I want to go to class. You know, and Gustavo the same thing. So, like, how do you think they are related? You know, are they both important the same way, or
is it okay?
I don't know, what are your thoughts about it? You know,
is it okay if an athlete like kind of prioritize his athletic career and the school is I'm just gonna pass my classes, that's enough for me?
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Because I don't think there's a cover-all answer, right?
Yeah.
I think the beauty of this system is that there's a fallback, right? So if the U.S. system, if you are moving to be a very successful athlete, and something happens, because it can happen, right? You've seen athletics change in a minute. They think they're great, they get a knee injury, they don't recover right, and they're just not the same. And now they got to depend on their career. So I think that this setup in the U.S. allows for a fallback where people can not have athletics work out for them, and they're still going to be very successful in life and not depend on people to take care of them. So I like that. I also know that professional athletics do not allow the time you need to be a student.
Right.
So I think that's one way to look at it. I also think the other way to kind of consider it is the idea of, I don't think it's okay if you're in this system for students just to do good enough in athletics or in academics. I think I found that people who want to be the best athletes also want to be really good in school. They may not be good at it, but they will strive and work and grind to be good enough, because you're getting a wonderful opportunity to now be able to have a profession. And that's not everyone gets that. So I guess I'm struggling a little bit with that one, because do I think in the U.S. system it goes hand in hand? Yes. Do I think it needs to? No. But I think we'd be foolish if we didn't at least acknowledge that the U.S. has set it up this way for two reasons, right? To make money. Money, really what it comes down to, right? Because
it's a business.
It's the business of educating people, but we can now attract more people because we have athletics. Would you have ever been in Toledo, Ohio, if we didn't have a soccer team? Or volleyball, right? Yeah, so you wouldn't be here voting for volleyball, right? So that's why you're here. So that attracted you, which then allowed us to make money off you, right? And then at the bigger universities, we attract the best. They attract the best so that they can make money off them, right? With ticket sales and all that other stuff. So it's a money scheme. I mean, it is, but so are professional athletics, right? When you really think about it, they're abusing you to get the most money they can. The minute they can hire someone cheaper to do the same job as you, you're cut, right? You're looking for a new team. I'm not answering your question well, am I?
No, you're good.
And it's very hard because we talk about that all the time and you cannot find an answer. It's just because it's kind of the fallback that you said, like kind of, because the degree is very important. So like for your career, so it's kind of over there, like in Brazil, sometimes with 18, 17, we gotta decide between being professional and going to school, and that's what the bad things can happen. Like they could happen, and you don't have this fallback. That's
and I feel like there's two types of education. There's the formal education when you go to school, when you go to college, and there's another one that is informal, that is you learn about stuff, you know, like us having this talk here, or you're reading a book about something, you know, or something like that, something that school doesn't teach you, and I feel like that's important. And like, for example, in Brazil, soccer players are known by by not knowing how to give an interview because they don't know how to talk because they drop out, you know, when they were in school. So and that's terrible. Like how I understand that as a professional athlete, you gotta there's a lot of time that you need to put into the sport for you to be successful. But I feel like that informal education, you know, it's not only making you a better player, but it also making you a better person, a human being, you know, for the society, for people around you, you know. So I think that's really important as well. And I mean, I don't know. I just feel like some people forget about that informal education that is just as important as going to college, for example. You know.
I also think you hit a lot of the other piece that people don't realize at a university setting is the relationships you make.
Yeah.
Not only just with your teammates, but with other people that I never would have believed it. But some of the relationships I made there now have impacted me later in life, and a lot of me opened doors I never thought would. Like for example, I don't know if you knew this, the men's soccer coach and I were teammates in college.
I did. I know.
We were teammates.
Yeah.
We were teammates in college. Yeah, he was 2 years older than me. So we were teammates for 2 years. So relationships and how they open doors later, right? Little things like that, they go a long way. And you wouldn't believe how in 20 years later, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I know him. Or it doesn't have to be on your team. It can be other teams or in your classrooms or relationships you make do help you.
The environment,
And just you're surrounded by people who are moving into the world just like you and will have opportunity.
Yeah.
And you might be able to help yourself later.
And for us, like I feel like of course the degree, having a degree in US, it's huge, you know. But like being able to have this talk with you, you know, we would never have this talk with you if we were in Brazil, if we were playing there, you know. So like the experience to come here and meeting people and of course going to class, but I mean in college here, I feel like we live better than many professional athletes in Brazil or in many other different countries. So like I agree with you 100%. Like this experience that we have, like no money can buy. You know, like you can pay for that.
I said it before. Someone I know was asking me about my experience maybe about a week ago, and I hadn't thought about playing for about maybe 10 years. You just kind of forget about it. It really does come across as a dream. You know what I mean? Just like you don't realize how great you were treated, the experiences you had, or the opportunities you had until while it's over. And you're like, wow, that was amazing. When you really look back, it was amazing. And I know you're going through the grind, the two of you right now, and you don't feel it, but gosh, when I look back, it was, it was hard, don't get me wrong. I don't know if I'd ever do it again. It was at that point, but now I look back, it just seems like something happened a long time ago, but it was pretty amazing. And the opportunities and the experiences, the friendship I made, and how it made me grow as a person. And just grow up.
For sure. So my next question is, you have many athletes that for some reason they come to you and they are not able to play because of, I don't know, they are great or something. So how can you convince those players that education can be a valuable asset to them? You know, because I feel like that's the hardest part, you know, like for you, because you talk about being eligible, players being eligible, but I mean, it's so hard. Like, if you don't convince them, they're not gonna do it, you know.
So, I'd probably say that's the area I'm probably worst at, because if someone's in a big hole, it's hard to get them out. Right. If someone isn't eligible and there's a lot of reasons behind it, so if you haven't done the key early courses well, it gets really hard to do the upper level course as well because you don't have the basics, right? Think of it in sport. If you don't have the foundational skills, you're not going to be able to do the advanced stuff. You just can't do it. So it really is kind of a hard thing to sell. Some of them see money as an option, right? Because, all right, I'm doing poorly in school, I can drop out and make a ton more money working. And especially right now. I mean, you go to Amazon right now, they're hiring $22 an hour. It's $44,000 a year. That's a lot of money with benefits. So, okay, I can pay this and not be eligible, or I can go make some money. So it's a battle that I don't think you can win. The only way, I just always ask them, what do you want? Do you want to keep playing? And if they say no, then it's a much different conversation. If they do, I try to give them a path. But if they don't want it, I can't help them. I can't. they have to really want to do this, and then even then they have to do the work. People can want it and not put the work in. It's two different things too.
Right.
It's a terrible answer, but that's probably the
No.
area I'm least successful in.
Oh yeah, no, I agree 100%.
So one of our classes that you were teaching was education psychology.
Yeah.
And I kind of briefly look it up because it kind of grabbed my attention.
I
It's
did that
kind
a
of
while
a
ago.
way to improve your way to study, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, it really
I'm
it's
wrong.
it's the approach of how does psychology impact the way you teach people? I mean,
You teach,
the
okay.
way the brain works.
Mhm. And so, do you think athletes, if they have more knowledge in this part, they can apply that in their routine? How to learn a new movement, how to get better in some things?
I think the people who would benefit the most would be the coaches.
The coaches.
Yes, because so often we think there's just one way to coach or there's one way to do things, and the kids should conform to us. It's the idea of understanding how the brain works and understand how people take in knowledge.
Oh, so they can influence in a better way. Oh,
Because I'm
that's-
sure you have teammates. I'll use my son for example. I have a son with special needs, so he mentally he struggles. Like in school, he's really tough, but athletically, he's really good as long as you show him. Does that make sense? So
Okay.
if a coach tells him you're gonna do this, this, and this, he goes and then doesn't understand a word they say. But if they show him physically how to hit the ball or how to do something, he can do it.
Yeah.
So think of some of your teammates that you have right now. I'm sure some you're like, how can you not figure this out, right? You said 10 times what to do, and you're frustrated with them, right? But to them, their brain just doesn't work. But maybe you show them or you help them in a different way, they get it. And it's the idea. I look at ed psych as giving someone a toolbox, right? You think of carpenters; they have their toolbox, right? 100 different tools
Yeah.
that they can use to build that home.
Mhm.
So ed psych is like giving someone a bunch of tools. Each tool is different for each situation. So you know this kid needs this tool, right? I need to approach this kid this way. I can handle you this way. You a totally different way. And I think good coaches adjust, right? And are constantly, gosh, what was the story I heard? You're a soccer person, right?
Yeah.
Sir Al, are you soccer at all? You know a little bit?
I know a
Sir
lot.
Alex Ferguson, you know him, right?
Yeah.
So many years ago, this was when I was younger and watching the games that were barely on TV. Eric Cantona was playing for him. Do you know who Eric Cantona
Yes.
is?
Mhm.
Absolutely crazy in the head, like not right in the head. So one game he gets thrown off, right? And I don't know if you've ever seen this, but the stadium was the field was higher than the stand, so the fans sat like almost like just their head was above the
Mhm.
field. So that was the first row, and a fan was giving it to him when he gets thrown out of the field, and he ran. You can still watch him and jumps and kicks him in the chest, and just runs off, just like completely kicks this fan right in the head, and so they lost the game. And Alex Ferguson goes in the locker room, screaming all about Alex Ryan not doing everything right, and then he turns to Eric. You can hear the story of this day and goes, "Eric, young man, we don't do that here." That's all he said, like calm as can be. Man, the guy kicks someone in the stands, probably be fine forever. And she goes, "Eric, we don't do that here, right?" And he's like, "That's not the way we work at Manchester United. Don't ever do that again." No yelling, not frustrated, but yelled at everyone about the game. But he knew Eric, if he screamed at him, he wasn't going to react well.
Mhm.
So it's just, Eric, we don't do that here. That was it,
That's
right?
great.
So understanding, here's how I deal with this person, right? This person needs to be handled this way, and this person needs to be handled this way. You probably, if you're good teammates, you're figuring out your teammates, right?
Mhm.
I can't scream at him. If I scream at him on the field or court, he's going to go negative and he can't focus, right? Maybe you need to. He hasn't done anything great job tying his shoes today. The one thing he did well today, tied his shoes well. Compliment him on that. Maybe he starts feeling better about himself. But you need to find out what makes each person tick,
Mhm.
and that's what Ed Psych does. It gives you tools and allows you to then also some of the things just with the approaches of how you can scaffold ideas. So you start with basic fundamentals and slowly make things more tough. You can't start tough and work backwards. So little stuff like that. That's probably way more than you wanted. But
Mhm.
that's,
Yeah,
No,
That's really cool. It's
yeah,
really
no,
important.
I like that. And you mentioned that it helps coaches, but like for us as a teammates, I think that's like a
Especially when you are
really good
older,
asset.
and
Yeah,
try
because
to help like the younger ones, and sometimes we don't
Yeah.
have the knowledge. We don't know. You tell something, the freshmen don't do it. And sometimes I go to Igor. I don't know how they don't understand. Like it's exactly like how you said. And then maybe it might be something to look it up to
yeah,
help
to
them.
to
well, it's just
work
different
on.
approaches, right?
Yeah.
Like how can we're not connecting with this person. So
Mhm.
what do I have to do different? Because communication is two ways, right?
Mhm.
It's one, the communicator, and the other one's the receiver. So I could say something.
Yeah.
If you don't receive what I'm saying,
Mhm.
I'm
Doesn't
not
work.
doing a good job,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So I need to find out how you receive information, make sure I deliver it in a way that you can understand it.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's really good. Do you have any other questions? Can I ask
No, let's move for the
last
final
one?
question.
Well, the
Yeah.
final one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
it's,
most
it's
important.
a question that we always ask our guest speakers because we believe they all have a different answer. So, it's how you define success.
So in my profession, success for me is what I said before, is people finding success for themselves.
Mhm.
So if I do a good job teaching and coaching and doing all the other stuff, people will move on and be successful in their life.
Mhm.
And knowing that I was a part of that, maybe small, they did all the work, but knowing that I set a situation or something that created them to want that's success for me. So helping others achieve success is what success means for me.
Mhm.
That's what I get the most enjoyment out of in life. That's what I get up for in the mornings, to help others get to where they want to be.
Mhm.
Because I don't have a lot of things for me that I want, and that's what I enjoy. That provides me a lot of value and enjoyment, is helping others
Mhm.
get to where they want to be.
And do you use that in your personal life as well?
100%, yes. I mean, with my children, yeah,
Okay.
and my wife, yeah. How can I help them get to where they be? Now, do I always? Probably not, but
Mhm.
it's the daily struggle of, am I helping people move forward? And I'm more of an administrative role here in education, so I don't teach as much, and
Mhm.
I'm really trying to help the faculty get to where they want to be. I'm trying to help students in our program, and they fall down every once in a while,
Yeah.
and that's okay, right? I
Mhm.
deal with it all the time with mistakes they make, but how can we get them to a point where they can get to success? Or if they're not going to have success, helping them get out to something where they will be successful.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not going to be a teacher, but they're going to be a wonderful social worker, a
Mhm.
wonderful police officer. Let's help them get to the right profession.
Yeah.
So that's what I enjoy. So how's that rank in the answers you've gotten before?
That's
I mean,
pretty
it's good. Like,
Yeah.
because for us, we wanna like, I don't feel like we have our definition of success still. So we're trying to get a little bit of everyone, and build our own.
So where are you right now? How would you do, based on what you've heard from everyone, what would you say how people have kind of summed up success?
I mean,
So you didn't think I would
That's
put you on
a
the spot.
very good question.
yeah, that's
I
a
think-
good question.
I
Yeah.
think the kind of that I identified the most was kind of his professor. That he said that it's kind of a peace of mind. It's kind of knowing that you do everything you
Yeah.
could to achieve your goals. And I'm kind of in this. I feel that I have a lot of ambitions and I want to get them like as quick as possible. But I know I gotta go through a process. So like going to bed knowing that this day I did everything I could to achieve my goals and to have a better future for me. It's kind of what success is for me right now. But I believe it changes, especially because I've been hearing so many people, and I believe this purpose, it changes, and this definition of success is gonna change as well for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was gonna say the same thing, the same quotes
Maybe
about
right.
being a peace of mind. I feel like we can try to achieve success in a daily basis, trying to be successful in small things, so we can be successful in the long term as well. So I feel like when I have a peace of mind that I'm gonna lay down on my bed today, and I know that I gave everything that I had, I'll call myself successful. I still struggle with that because when I don't see the results that I expect, it's not easy to I'm successful because I gave everything, but we still lose, and I'm not playing the way that I want, So I still struggle with that, to be honest, but I feel like I'm trying to focus on giving my best every time, and I feel like I'm getting better a little bit every day, so maybe
A lot of people said not exactly like making others successful, but how giving is like so grateful that you
Yeah.
kind of feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
And of course I help people and I like to help, but I don't think I'm in that stage yet. I'm kind of more, I don't know, fighting my personal battle, and then maybe a lot of people say, oh, like don't care about money, care about what you are doing. And then I feel that they already achieved success and the financial success, and now they don't care anymore. And what is correct, because they already understood that that's not the point. Money's not the point. It's like just a consequence. But I feel that I'm still need to achieve those things to then give it back to the society.
Yeah.
I think a big thing that people often overlook is everyone has goals, right? And
Mhm.
everyone has like ways they want to improve X, Y, Z. But I think the ability to give up things that you like to get to where you want to do
Yeah.
is something that separates good from great.
Yeah.
Right? People can be good, but if you want to be great, are you willing to sacrifice to get to here? And what that could be in many ways, right? So I went back to my playing days. I realized very quickly I wasn't good enough. Like when I got to a certain point,
Mhm.
I had to cut out things, right? I had to cut out the types of foods I wasn't eating well, right? I realized I wasn't getting enough sleep. I was drinking, right? Things that all three don't help you achieve. So I cut out all of them, right? I
Mhm.
stopped drinking. Now, did that create some problems for me socially with some of my friends who like to go out and drink all the time? And I'm like, I can't do it. Like, I got to stop this because I realized that was keeping me from getting to here. Like, some of them were good enough players that they can go do that stuff and
Mhm.
still perform at that level. I wasn't. So I realized, but did they judge me for that? Sure, because I like to hang out with them. I was like, hey, let's go have a good time. But then all of a sudden, I realized that wasn't going to get me there. So I had to give this up. And it's no different with other things. It doesn't mean you have to. Sometimes you realize your goals are unrealistic and you can't do it without giving up things that you need to keep, right? You see with very successful business people, right? Some of them will lose spouses, will not be around their family so that they can make this business great. But their goal was this, and they're willing to sacrifice other things to
Yeah.
get there. Doesn't mean it's right or wrong. But even with good teams, the best teams I've ever been on and the best teams I've ever coached were ones where people were willing to sacrifice for the greater good.
Yeah.
Right? Are you willing to play a position you don't want to play? You may have to, because Johnny may be better than me. Well, I may have to go out wide right or wide left because he's better than me in the middle because that's his. So am I willing to do a job I don't like so that the team could be better? And I'm not going to moan about it. I'm still going to be my best. And realizing that's hard. So I got to go home, right, and get some sleep because my performance, they're all depending on my performance tomorrow. You know, all those things are part of success. Are you willing to sacrifice?
Yeah. And I feel that the hardest
Go ahead.
because the hardest things like you make this sacrifice and then you have I feel that I have two options. Or I'm gonna be like thinking about it, oh I could have gone out and then I feel sad because I
It was
wanted
a
to
lot
be
of
there.
fun. Yeah, everyone had a blast.
It's like
And you're
super
sitting
nice
at
and I'm here at home because I have practice and then you took to the negative side. Or also you can be like proud of yourself and then that's the hard thing to see when it happens. It's easy to say right now, but when it happens, like you kind of get upset and you feel, I gotta go to practice and stuff. But actually, you are doing something good to yourself, and you should be proud instead of being sad. And I think that's the toughest thing for me.
And what he said about not letting the team down tomorrow at practice, I think that's a really good way to think, because like now it's not only about you. You know, like in my case, there's another 10 guys in the team. And like I'm the goalkeeper, so imagine if I let them down, you know, that's gonna be huge. So like I guess I'm gonna stay home tonight, and I'm not gonna go out, you know. So I think that helps a lot. That's really good. That's really cool. Well, thanks so
Anything
much.
else? Anything I didn't cover that you wanted me to cover?